came home, me and my sister, and found my dad had a heart attack. Where I was over 300 pounds, he was over 300 pounds, and the only thing I had to focus on was figure out how to stay alive and lose weight. My definition of a good life is a series of good choices and then learning from the ones that aren't so good. So that's the whole experiment thing. So for most people, when they hit experiment, it's like, do you know the good choices or not?
You said the whole experiment, and I thought you said the whole experiment, and I was like, oh, what kind? I missed that part of the intro, the whole experiment.
So this is the intro podcast episode, okay? I thought I would do things a little bit different. I'm gonna have you as my guest host. The reason I chose you was out of anybody in my life, besides my wife, over the past 5-6 years, I spend the most time with you. So if anybody has seen me, if anybody knows me and sees me more than my wife, it'd probably be you, because we've been in a lot of situations, plane, trains, automobiles, been in buses with all the smells and all the things going on.
Laughter, tears, hard emotions, light emotion, all the things.
And you know me too. I'm not one to I'm not a boastful person. So it's a lot easier to answer a question versus me just telling you,
hey guys, I've done this.
Yes, this is me. This is why you should listen to me.
Right? Yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm excited to ask you some questions today. And I'm sure I know some of these answers, but then there's some that I don't know because I haven't been in your life in an everyday capacity as of recent, but I'm excited to talk to you about some of these things. So first of all, what is the good choice experiment and what does it mean?
My definition of a good life is a series of good choices and then learning from the ones that aren't so good. So that's the whole experiment thing. So for most people, when they hit experiment, it's like, do you know the good choices or not? You know, the thing is any teacher that's out there, or any coach, or anybody you listen to on another podcast, or anybody who's experienced in any way, you want to learn from.
Right.
But you can't just follow the exact path that they did. You can learn from it.
Sure.
And then it's up to you to take that knowledge and experiment with it. So that's kind of the overall arc of this project and why I labeled it that.
First of all, you said the whole experiment, and I thought you said the whole experiment, and I was like, oh, what kind? I missed that part of the intro, the whole experiment.
Well, we haven't evolved there yet. That's for the Patreon members. We're going to get to know everybody.
Mira, where's the audition process? I know a few girls who can win this competition.
Yes. We're going to try to help everybody evolve and be their better self. That's the whole point. Everybody deserves a good life.
Why? Okay, but why did you start this podcast? Like, why now?
I was that dude that was working forklift in a warehouse. Like I had my own food truck or
the real work.
Yeah, even prior to that, when I was working the oil field, I was the guy that was listening to podcasts, and podcasts kind of changed my life and got me reemerged into getting out of that life, figuring out a way to do fitness during the day, stand up at night, and pursue my dreams. So podcasts have always been something that helped push me and help me create a bigger vision. So I wanted to pass that along because there's other generations coming along. There's a million podcasts out there, but it's not everybody is right for everybody. We all have somebody we can latch onto. So there's some little Eddie out there who's lost. He's stuck in Little Texas and he doesn't know what's ahead of him. So he may be falling into the bad traps. He may be getting into drugs. He may be getting into partying. He may be just lost and thinking he has to go there. So it's for that person. It's for that creative that I've evolved into as a videographer, as a stand-up. And initially when I created and started it, I just wanted to learn from other people's journeys because that's what I did. That's what I wanted. And I've started probably about 3 times, started, stop. I had one with other friends that I started. And so I'm at a place in my life where I have a base to stand on and a foundation that I've had to build over those years, where if I would have started in 2016, I wouldn't have been doing it with that base.
Totally.
So now's the time for that, you know.
That's good. That makes a lot of sense. You kind of answered my next question, but I still would like to know, like, who is this podcast for? Like, who do you hope finds this podcast? Who do you hope is like sharing it with a friend? And like, who's it for?
Well, that's evolved as well. So for anybody out there who's trying to start their own podcast, here's a lesson I've learned. I've already recorded about 6 to 8 podcasts. And what I initially started with, the idea of that avatar was a younger Eddie.
Man.
And so that person's still evolved in it. But based on the person who I am today, a lot of the conversations have evolved around health. So it's for anybody who's looking for tips of getting healthier, whether you're trying to be a health professional or just trying to get started.
Yeah.
It's mainly been with creatives because those are my friends.
Yeah.
Musicians,
Yeah.
artists, videographers, podcast productions, because that's the life that I know of how to be a creative, stay focused, but at the same time, bring in all those other areas of life to help you be the best you can at those. So it's going to evolve. And I actually want to hear from the listeners who they are and have that feedback so that I can create that content. Because like I said, just by doing it, that's changed.
Sure.
I'm a dad now.
Yeah.
I'm a dad now. So it's a lot of conversation with other dads or other married men.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of the topics on here. So what I thought it was and who I think it's for is one thing, but I would love to hear the feedback from the listeners on who they are and what they resonate with. And then I'll try to cater it to them because it's not about me. It's about initially who the audience is.
So let's talk about you though, because it's going to be your perspective, your point of view on what you thought was just going to be like health stuff, but now it's evolved into like husband stuff, dad stuff, like all the things that you're dealing with. But let's take it back to some of the journey that you've been on to get you to this Eddie today, so people can get a little taste of what they are going to be hearing on this podcast, where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Like, tell us a little bit about your background.
Where do I start? You know me too. Like sometimes you got to give me the light. We have.
Oh, and I will give you. Hey, we're good.
Yeah. I'm long-winded sometimes, but it's to a point because they say the devil's in the details, but I think it's the opposite. God's in the details. God's in the little small things, and He's worked a lot in my life. And so I've had a journey to where I started out a lost little fat nerd. I was overweight my entire life on all types of diets. I did every diet that was out there: Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, the grapefruit diet, all those things. Nothing stuck until I was about 22, 21. And I came home, me and my sister, and found my dad had a heart attack. And so walking in, he's purple faced. And I don't know why this sticks out to me, but he had a pickle hanging out his mouth because he was eating a sandwich. I know it's silly, but that's something that stuck out to me. It's sad, but it's also something that was like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want kids. I want to have a family one day. Families, I'm a big part of a family. So I was planning for my daughter over 10, 15 years ago.
Wow.
And so that moment, I was like, okay, I don't want to. My dad was a good dad. He did his best, but he became disabled when I was like 12, right? So over the years, I saw him devolve from somebody who was very active. He used to work on trucks. He used to build barbecue pits. He was constantly barbecuing. And after he injured his back, after all the surgeries and getting addicted to the pills, hydrocodone pills, and he ballooned up to the point where I was over 300 pounds. He was over 300 pounds. And I would wear his clothes to school because that's how you save money. So at that moment, I saw myself there because literally we're sharing clothes. I was sharing everything about him at that point. Wow. Even though we were bumping heads. So I thought ahead to that. I had already started stand-up before that, right? But that also correlated with the comedy club that was in Odessa shut down. I was the only comic there besides the owner.
Wow.
Everybody else was like flying in. So I had no idea that I could drive to Dallas. I had no money I had nobody to go stay with. So that shut down. Comedy shut down. The only thing I had to focus on was work this 9 to 5 and figure out how to stay alive and lose weight. So I dove into fitness during that time. Over the next year and a half, I did a lot of changing of like stop partying, stop hanging out with my friends. I kind of stopped drinking for a year, which once you do make a change, it changes your social aspect as well. That's a big part of it people don't really talk about, because if you start changing, then the other people around you are staying the same. There's going to be something.
What do we have in common anymore? We used to vibe off this. We used to go get drunk and act wild, and now you're not doing that no more. So what do we hang out for? We don't. I move on to the next and you move on to the next. You're right. And we don't really recognize that part when somebody chooses to make healthier choices with their life, the loss that comes with that, and taking that time to grieve those losses. Like, you were best friends with this person, and then now we don't hang out anymore because we just went down different paths, and that's a process too. That's good to talk about.
You don't realize it, but it also helps you see who your real friends are, and those who really support you are like, dude, good for you. I don't understand. We don't have to go drink a party. Let's go play some basketball. Let's go to the gym. join me at the gym this time, So it has its positive and negatives, but that's also what prevents people from making the change is they're too afraid to lose all that to better themselves. Right. So that takes a lot of confidence, and the drive to stay alive was stronger than that, because before in my life, it wasn't, peer pressure was big. Right. So lost the weight, spent about 7 years or so, kind of lost, still knowing I always wanted to do stand up and do that. But I would try to go the traditional route. My dad ended up passing away, I would say like in 2009, right? And so biggest moment that changed right there was the day after we buried my dad. I was hanging out with some friends. Once again, went back to drinking. You're sad. That's how we connect. I had a couple in, another friend showed up. He took me down to the bar. He drove, but all of a sudden he disappeared. Well, it's time to leave. I got in my car. I got pulled over, had some weed in there. Boom, right? That was a blessing and a curse, though. So it sucks going to jail. Good thing is it kept me from getting a good job.
What? Oh, so you could go your dream.
Yes, it kept me. I actually got a job for the city immediately when I went in there to submit my background. By the time I walked out the door, I already had a phone call, and they're like, sorry, sir.
Look out for us.
Because that's the same county.
We just arrested you, sir. No.
Yeah, you just walked in here.
Sir, you're still wearing the suit from your court hearing.
Are you going to take these off or not? I got a job. Can I do the job or not? This doesn't matter. I'm on probation anyway. I ain't going nowhere.
Right. You can trust. I will show up every day because I can't go anywhere else.
Yep. And so that kept me internally, all that. I still have that insecurity from growing up a fat kid. Now I'm not making any money. Now I can't get a good job. I can't live the life I want. The insecurities were building up on me. And then I started listening to podcasts, like I said, and I started reconnecting with these comics that I used to like open for or get to do guest spots, or I did a weekend with, and I'm hearing their stories. And over that time, I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. Another key point is I saw a 60-year-old man swinging a sledgehammer in the oil field working. I was like, that's going to be me if I stay here.
Wow.
So with that, I made the decision to switch it up. I started investing in myself. The first step was just to get my first certification in fitness.
Okay. What was that certification?
Well, the first one is, do you remember Insanity? Like P90X?
Yes.
What was it? Shanti, let's go! Shanti was the original Let's Go. Like Shanti started Let's Go before everybody was saying Let's Go. That was Shanti yelling at me on TV at 5 a.m. every morning as I'm doing my side shuffles.
Yes.
That really helped me out too. Like that's where I really because I didn't work out. Like when I first initially, my first 100 pounds, I didn't work out. It was all nutrition. I really educated myself in the nutrition aspect because my whole goal was health. And once again, seeing that 60-year-old Eddie, that 80-year-old Eddie.
Yeah.
Right? And to this day, that's my key thing. But a part of that, which I found out later, was the fitness thing. So I started with like Insanity. My next one was at the On It gym in Austin. I got my functional fitness certifications. Yeah. Okay. I knew through reading George Lopez's book, it could take 20 years to live my dreams. Right. Not longer. Right. It's a long journey. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do two things regardless. And I want to be happy doing it. That was the biggest thing, is I want to be happy. Cut to 2016. I'm back in stand-up, kind of back and forth. I'm doing the road for probably about 3 years or so at that time. You know, one of my friends, Tommy Munoz from San Antonio, he passed away, and I found out, you know, I was getting a tattoo, scrolling through Facebook, and I went down for that funeral, and we did some benefit comedy shows for his family, and which is weird. I don't know have you ever performed at like a funeral or like a wake or anything like that?
No. That's a thing?
Yeah. It wasn't really a show. It was like, if you want to come up and talk, all the comics were there.
Okay.
It was one of those things that where it was like a wake, but at the comedy club.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But you can't have comics go on stage. Everybody's like trying to act, you know, you can't be in front of it's a crowd, yo. So everybody's bringing it, even though it's like, well, you know, we're there to celebrate him. So, but that was my first time, like, experiencing that and finding comedy and tragedy. And like, I was just really telling the story. I was really just telling the story of me and him, and people, like, I was killing. I
believe it.
And it was weird. But anyway, our mutual friend James Ponce was there, and that's me and him reconnected because he's somebody that I met when I was like 19. And we hadn't spoken in a while. He's like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, I'm in Odessa. I'm working a food truck. I'm doing fitness. I'm hitting the road. You know, if I get spots, so go up like once a month or whatever. He's like, get out to LA, give me my couch. So that's when I moved out.
Shout out to Ponce. That was a good move right there. I mean, we all have those moments where the switch happens, where the invitation happens, or the prompting happens. And for me, it was me telling my friend who had been in a Ross commercial and an NSYNC music video, hey, I want to do what you're doing one day. And she was like, come to LA. If you ever come out here, I'll help you get started. I'll help show you the ropes. I'll help show you how to do it. And that was like what I needed, that invitation to make a choice, make a good choice.
And those are two key points that, like, if you want to do something, number one, which is an easy thing to say but hard to actually implement, which is just do it. And if you can't just do it, find somebody else who's doing it and is willing to like help you or show you a rope or like crack open a little door for you or like point in a direction.
And also, I would like to say that, like, when my girl offered to help me, that came after me picking up the phone and calling her and saying, hey, I kind of want to do what you're doing. Like, being vulnerable and putting myself out there. Because let me tell you, whatever industry you're trying to get in, sometimes you'll find people that are all about helping, which is what you're doing right now. How can I help you? How can I help you in health, in dad life, in whatever? How can my story help your story, right? And then you'll find people that are like, every man for themselves. I got to do what I got to do. My friend could have answered me when I said, hey, I want to do what you're doing. She could be like, yeah, you totally should. It's so fun. She could have done that. She did not. But it's up to us when we're chasing after something, whatever your dream is. If it's you want to start your own business, you find people and you be like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions about how you started your business? And some people will say, yeah, sure. And some people will be like, I don't have time right now. I wish I could. And that's it. And then you go on to the next. And it's up to you if you're going to let that hold you in your spot and be like, oh, I tried. It didn't work. Be like, okay, that didn't work. Let me try a different route. That's what I hear from your story.
Yeah. I just had a visual, like that person that's like, nah, I'm good. I'm busy. I'm on my own. If we're all out in the ocean, that dude is like, nah, I'm good. I'm out on my own. All right, I'm going to go with this 6 people on this raft and we're going to kick the hell out of this water and we're going to pedal there and get there faster. Good luck out there. If you start sinking.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. So cut to LA and like, so finally everything came to fruition, kept getting certifications. So cut to today where it's like, I got my health coaching certification is really what I wanted to do. So fitness and all that is good. I've been a boxing instructor for several years and fitness is great. I know a lot about it, but my real passion is the nutrition area of life, which is what initially helped me from the jump. It's just people don't direct you in what that is. You know, I went to college for kinesiology, and what that is PE coach. You got two kinesiology. You're either going to be like a physical therapist or you're going to be a coach. And that's it. Or if you go to college to be an actual nutritionist, now you're tied down to what the hospitals say and like the core curriculum of science, right? So, you know, if you go to the hospital, they're going to give you Jell-O. They're going to give you macaroni and cheese. It's a whole different.
They don't care about you.
Like, it's not there. And there has to be stuck to what they have there. Now, there might be some people out there, I don't want to put down all nutritionists out there because there might be some great dietitians out there that are well educated and think outside the box. And so, but for the core of what the standard is, it's a whole different ball game.
Your main thing was nutrition, fitness. That's what you want to do. And I can attest, when Eddie was on the road with me, you guys, my green room rider shifted. It went from, you know, I would just order some chicken fingers and French fries, and I would have, you know, in my rider regular tortilla chips and salsa and all those things, because I always have to have my chips and salsa. And then Eddie comes along. Now we got Siete chips. Shout out to Siete. Now we have macadamia nuts. Now we have fresh guacamole ingredients, so Jackie could make it for us with like no bad stuff in it. Now we have like healthier veggie tray, fruits, and all that kind of stuff.
Raw cheddar cheese.
Yes, we got that expensive cheddar. We got Kroger cheddar. No, we got that expensive cheddar. I mean, I would still order my chicken nuggets. You know, I would still get my fried chicken. But I still have on my rider, I still got macadamia nuts on there. I still got my fruits and veggies on there. So I still have kept some of my healthy tips that I've learned from Eddie along the way. But let's talk about how health and comedy are connected fields.
Okay. So, because it's weird, right? So that's another reason why it took me so long to do this podcast. Because here's the thing. When you're at my level, it's all about stage time and growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just want to do, like, I want to mold my bits the best that I can. I want to grow into, like, the thing is, it's harder to get stage time when you're unknown. And so what do? You got to put yourself out there, do a podcast, do these things. And it's hard I want to be authentic as I can be. And the authentic me is somebody who's into health, who's deep, which I brought this up the other day on one of my podcasts, but most of the comics I know are deep. At least my circle.
Yeah.
You know, us, like the best conversations I've had are with people like you, Mal, Ron. You know, I had Orlando Leyba in here the other day, and like, it's just deep.
Love Orlando.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it took me a long time, but I finally, like I said, I have my base now. So I finally figured out there's a connection because the baby steps that I took when I got into fitness, right? So when I started at over 300 pounds, I knew it was going to be a long journey. Just the way when I started stand up, I knew it was going to be a long journey and it's going to be baby steps. So the way I will take a bit up there, try it out, doesn't work. What works, keep what doesn't, is the same way I approach my fitness. Fasting's all the, like, it's all the rage right now, right?
Intermittent, team intermittent, honey.
Yep. And I'll get on my soapbox about that in a little bit, but I'll stick to the point. Here's the thing. If there's something that's popular out there where it's keto, paleo, vegan, fasting, all these things, it's very confusing, the landscape of nutrition.
Right.
Because every week there's something new. There's a hot topic. Somebody else is trying it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're just finding out from somebody else, oh, what are you doing? And it's the surface level. You have to go a bit deeper.
Sure.
Just the way with stand up, there's a million ways to do it, but you got to find what's right for you.
Bad.
Are you going to be a prop comic? Are you going to, are you going to get a guitar? Are you going to be one-liners? Or are you going to, what's your approach and what works best for you? And it takes a long time to find those things, even within, nutrition and all those things. And don't chase what's hot out there in both areas. Whatever is hot is what's hot.
Yeah.
What works for you is going to keep the longevity for you and the discipline of it. I know people with diets that chase the new fad. Every other week they're on a new diet. Oh, I'm not doing this now, but last week, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And then the next week, I'm not doing this, which is good because I want people to experiment.
Yeah.
But also in experiments, you have to give things time.
Yeah.
Just like with a comedy bit.
Yeah.
Give it some time before you kill it. You never know. And so the correlation is within that. And it's not just comedy and health. It is in all aspects of life, which is what this has evolved into, is finding what's right for you and experimenting in all the areas to build the best life you can.
Yeah.
And don't chase what's hot out there, because what's hot fades and it changes every day. Find out what is right for you and keep that steady all the way through.
Nice. All right, Eddie, before we wrap it up, what would you say to those listening who they're going to be subscribing to your podcast, to your point of view? What can they expect moving forward? And tell everybody your last hurrah of your first episode.
So what you can expect to learn and to be entertained. And this is going to be coming in different formats. If you're a podcast listener, you just do audio, that's going to be there for you. If you like short bits on YouTube, that's going to be there for you. And also expect something to evolve and actually help you, because I'm going to pay attention to what you guys are saying and where you need areas of help. And that's the whole purpose of this. It's not for me. Where it's for me is like, maybe I can get some more stage time because people are coming out to see me somewhere. And that's where it's in it for me. But what's really in it for me is helping other people, and then having you go out and experiment and live a good life to what it is designed for you.
That's awesome. That's great, Eddie. Yeah. And to those listening, I can co-sign and say that Eddie has been a voice of reason in my life for the past few years. He's given me advice over the years. He's spoken into situations that I've been dealing with. He's encouraged me. He's challenged me. there's been so many times where I would call Jackie, his wife, and I would have an issue and I'd be like, is Eddie there? Can you put on speakerphone so he can hear me? Because I want Eddie's input in whatever it is that I'm going through, because I value his perspective, his point of view, his wisdom, and all the things that he's been through has really given him that wisdom that he is so gracefully sharing with all of us listening. So to everybody who's listening now, I encourage you to subscribe and tune in to whatever he's talking about next, because I'm sure you will learn something from it that you can apply to your own life. But yeah, thank you for having me, Eddie. Thank you for having me be your first co-host of your first episode.
Thank you, Anjelah, so much. And I do promise there will be, you bring out the deep in me and you bring out, because you're big sis. And so, there'll be a good time. There'll be laughs too, but most of all, you guys are going to learn. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time. We'll see you soon.